It's a giant sinkhole in Liberty County that's been dormant, you might say, but now it's swallowing up land again.
The Devil's Sinkhole emerges at the edge of the hill country, a deep and wide abyss that plunges into darkness where the sun barely touches, almost as if nature carved a massive pit on purpose. Around its mouth, the terrain shifts dramatically from rough, mesquite-covered hills to the mysterious shadows of an underground world, where the air cools and carries the earthy scent of damp soil and bat guano. What mysteries lie concealed within this infernal abyss as it devours the light, daring the courageous to venture into its depths? Follow our lead to the locale rumored to be the very home of Satan himself. Evening escape at Devil's Sinkhole. Located on the western edge of the hill country, the Devil's Sinkhole stands as one of the deepest and broadest bat caves in the state. It drops sharply into the earth, forming a vast, dark cavern where sunlight rarely reaches, almost though nature itself crafted a grand, exaggerated pit. This immense vertical abyss acts as a vivid reminder of the planet's dynamic changes, overshadowing our daily concerns with its vast and imposing presence. The entrance to the sinkhole feels like a gateway to a different world, transitioning from the familiar scrubby, mesquite-covered landscape to a zone shrouded in darkness and enigma. As you draw closer, the earth abruptly opens up into a massive hole, its sharp edges contrasting starkly with the softer lines of the terrain around it. Approaching this chasm, the air turns cooler, filled with the subtle, musty aroma of damp soil mixed with bat guano, a stark reminder of the bustling life within. Venturing down into the Devil's Sinkhole isn't for the timid. The initial descent is sheer, plunging over 140 feet straight down, like stepping through a portal into another realm. Below, the cave expands into a large, bowl-shaped cavern, nearly 400 feet across. Its walls, steep and moist, are decorated with delicate formations of stalactites and stalagmites, shining dimly in the scarce light, their intricate designs narrating stories of centuries of slow, mineral-rich water seepage, building layer upon meticulous layer. This shadowy, expansive underground cathedral is teeming with millions of Mexican free-tailed bats. These bats cover the high cave ceilings, densely packed in massive numbers, their bodies tightly intertwined with each other, almost becoming part of the rocky surface they attach to. With fading daylight, the atmosphere inside the cave thickens with anticipation, vibrating with the collective movement of the bats as they prepare for their nightly venture. These bats are crucial to maintaining the local ecosystem's balance. Every evening, they perform a vital ritual, a stunning flight out of the cave at dusk, diving into the warm night air to hunt the insects that thrive in it. Each bat can eat about its body weight in insects, significantly aiding in controlling pest populations naturally. The interior of the Devil's Sinkhole contrasts starkly with the dry, rugged terrain above. Within the cave, conditions are consistently cool and damp, fostering a stable habitat for bats and other cave-dwelling creatures. The steady dripping of water from above supports a variety of unique life forms, including specialized algae and fungi, which, in turn, feed numerous invertebrate species. The cave's walls and floors are slick with moisture, making the surfaces slippery and the paths uneven, a challenge for navigation that makes guided tours essential. Stalactites that resemble jagged teeth hang from the cave ceiling, formed over thousands of years by dripping water that deposits minerals, creating these spectacular natural sculptures that enhance the cave's awe-inspiring atmosphere. With nightfall, the cave's activity level spikes noticeably. The noise from the millions of bats getting ready to exit the cave intensifies. Their wings flapping in unison create a breeze that can be felt even at the entrance, serving as a natural announcement of their impending departure. These Mexican free-tailed bats are not merely residents of the cave. They are vital to its ecological health. They manage insect populations, benefiting the surrounding vegetation and demonstrating nature's interconnectedness. With dusk nearing, the excitement among the bats becomes tangible. Initially, only a few bats at the edges start to move, but suddenly, following an invisible cue, the entire group takes flight, swirling upwards in a dense spiral. This mass exodus is so synchronized and vast that it can be detected on radar. Observers can see the precision in what seems like chaos, an organized, fluid motion that allows millions of bats to leave the cave in just a few minutes. The sky above the sinkhole fills with their forms, the air vibrating with the sounds of their wings as they spread out into the countryside to feed. This nightly departure is not just a spectacular natural event. It also underscores the sinkhole's role as a crucial habitat in Texas's hill country. The bat's flight from the Devil's Sinkhole serves as a nightly reminder of nature's marvels and the intricate ecological relationships that sustain various life forms. The spectacle begins at sunset. The bats exit the cave in a swirling vortex, forming a tornado of bodies that spirals into the evening sky. This dramatic exit is crucial for the local ecosystem, with each bat consuming about half its body weight in insects, including pests that could damage crops. Their evening flights are essential, providing natural pest control that benefits the economy and the environment alike. Silence falls over the sinkhole once more as the bats vanish into the diminishing light. The darkness deepens, and the cave seems to broaden, its boundaries stretching into the night. The sinkhole is more than just a geological feature. It is a living, breathing entity. Its history is recorded in every stone and every drop of water that falls. Geologically, the Devil's Sinkhole is a vertical channel, a rare formation in the karst landscapes of this part of Texas. Created by water-dissolving limestone, this sinkhole dramatically showcases the Earth's internal dynamics. Over centuries, water infiltrated through cracks in the rock, expanding them and eventually causing the ceiling of an underground void to collapse, forming the sinkhole seen today. Surrounding the sinkhole, the landscape is filled with natural beauty. Streams and rivers cut through the land, their banks lush with water-loving plants. In spring, wildflowers bloom in vibrant colors, decorating the hills with bluebonnets, Indian paintbrushes, and primroses, changing the scenery with the seasons. The local climate also influences the sinkhole's ecosystem. The hill country experiences diverse weather, from hot, dry summers to cold, moist winters. This climate variation impacts the local flora and fauna, each species adapted to survive these conditions. The Devil's Sinkhole is a dramatic shift from the rolling hills around it, a perfect contradiction and a break from the landscape's monotony that demands respect and a bit of awe. Descending into its depths, one finds a massive opening reminiscent of a colossal beast's gaping mouth, eternally frozen in a scream that resonates through time. This enormous opening houses millions of bats, a proud fact for the sinkhole. Every evening at dusk, it becomes a grand amphitheater for a natural display. Clouds of bats swirl into the twilight, their bodies a flowing mass of wings and soft echoes. To those new to this scene, it might seem as though the earth itself breathes out these creatures in a gust of dusky air. This event offers more than just a visual spectacle. It provides a vital ecological service as the bats spread out to consume the night's insect bounty, helping to maintain balance in the local ecosystem. Watch as 1 million bats take flight into the Texas sunset, a stunning dance of nature's own making, the Devil's Sinkhole bat frenzy. As the sun sets over the Texas plains, the Devil's Sinkhole springs to life with a breathtaking event. Over 1 million Mexican free-tailed bats awaken from their daytime slumber within this natural landmark. They've been hanging upside down all day, clustered in messy groups on the cave's ceiling. When they start to stir, their wings flutter, signaling the start of an incredible show under the dimming evening sky. Throughout history, bats have been enveloped in both fascination and fear. Their activities at night, their choice to inhabit dark and secluded places like caves and old buildings, and their silent, ghostly flight make them a mysterious presence in human folklore. These night creatures have often been linked to supernatural or misunderstood aspects of the natural world. In the past, in Western cultures, bats have been associated with the devil and dark magic. Artists in medieval Europe depicted devils with wings like those of bats, symbolizing their connection to the night and their status as symbols of evil. Moreover, bats are often shown in a dramatic contrast to the traditional images of the devil in various myths. Like bats moving through darkness, the devil in many stories represents the dark side of sin and temptation. This imagery is especially clear in tarot cards, where the devil often has bat wings, highlighting their shared themes of darkness and evil. These bats don't just simply leave their resting place. They launch themselves energetically. They begin by flying in a counterclockwise direction, quickly forming a massive, spinning group that looks like a giant snake made of wings and fur. Each bat is a small part of this larger moving picture. They gather speed and coordination as they move towards the cave's narrow exit in a scene that looks almost magical. Though this sight is captivating, the bats are not performing for the sake of beauty. As they exit the sinkhole, they begin their important nightly hunt, spreading out into the nearby fields in search of insects to eat. Their flight is crucial for keeping insect populations under control, which might otherwise grow too large and become a problem. Each bat eats about 2/3 of its own body weight in insects every night, helping themselves and benefiting local farmers by naturally controlling pests. The timing of the bats leaving the sinkhole is perfectly synced with the decrease in daylight. This timing helps protect them from predators that hunt during the day, and also makes the most of their hunting opportunities in the cooler evening air. Watching this swarm of bats pour out into the night sky is not only a stunning natural event, but also a key part of their survival strategy. Observers might see the bats' individual movements as chaotic, but together they form a smart, coordinated effort. This behavior, known as emergent swarm intelligence, is fascinating and shows a lot about how bats navigate and survive. They use a system called echolocation to find their way in the dark and locate groups of insects. This system involves making ultrasonic noises that bounce back after hitting objects, allowing the bats to see with their ears by interpreting these sounds. As the group of bats leaves the sinkhole, the air above becomes filled with a thick stream of bats. This large departure creates a sight like a dark cloud moving through the sky as the bats split into smaller groups to cover more area during the Texan night. The atmosphere is filled with energy, and the flapping of millions of wings can be felt by people watching from a safe distance. However, this nightly journey is full of risks. Birds of prey like hawks and owls often wait near the sinkhole, ready to take advantage of the bats' predictable flight paths. The bats have to avoid these skilled predators, a risky but necessary part of their nightly routine to keep their numbers stable and maintain balance in the ecosystem. To someone watching, this might look like a dance of nature, a ballet where each move is filled with risks. The beauty of this dance is as stark as the realities of life in nature. The bats show how adaptable and resilient they are, managing to thrive in a challenging environment that few other creatures can handle. As the last bats leave the sinkhole, the event comes to an end, and the night takes over. The now quiet cave entrance echoes with the soft sounds of the departing bats, a reminder of the continuous flow of life in even the most secluded spots. The display at the Devil's Sinkhole is a deep dive into the complexity of nature and how ecosystems are connected. It highlights the critical need for conservation, which is vital not only for the bats, but also for the overall health of the region. Protecting these habitats helps ensure the survival of these unique animals and the stability of the local farming landscape. Visitors and nature lovers come to the Devil's Sinkhole to witness this miraculous event, often leaving with a new appreciation for the intricate interactions of natural elements. This nightly migration showcases the beauty and harshness of the natural world, providing a learning experience for those lucky enough to see it. The phenomenon known as the bat tornado shows the importance of preserving natural habitats despite human development. This example proves that even small conservation efforts can have a big impact on maintaining ecological balance in an area. After escaping the confines of the sinkhole, the bats spread out into the night, their shapes visible against the darkening sky as they search for insects. This nightly feeding is crucial not just for their survival, but also as a natural way to control pests, helping to keep local insect populations in check. While the view is spectacular, there's a touch of irony in how this natural event is often portrayed. The romantic term bat tornado, used in marketing materials, hides a desperate fight for survival. These bats emerge out of necessity, driven by hunger, controlled by instinct, and completely unaware of the awe they inspire in people. The sinkhole returns to its quiet, unassuming state, masking the critical ecological drama that just unfolded. Discover how a simple discovery in 1876 would strip a sacred site of its sanctity and turn it into a mere playground. The first terrifying encounter at Hackberry Creek. The story of the Devil's Sinkhole unfolds with a rather undramatic beginning, despite its ominous name. Ammon Billings, a local rancher roaming the stark landscapes of Edwards County near Hackberry Creek in 1876, stumbled upon this geological marvel under circumstances that were hardly the stuff of legend. Accompanied by a small party of 5, Billings encountered a group of Native Americans, described at the time with the prejudiced term marauding Indians. This meeting, steeped in the racial tensions and conflicts of the era, escalated quickly into a violent confrontation. Billings, believing they were under attack, fired his gun towards the Native Americans, thinking he had wounded one. Rather than a heroic defense, this act prompted a rapid retreat. Billings and his group, driven by fear of a possible ambush, chose safety over confrontation and did not pursue the Native Americans further. This event underscores not bravery, but rather a survival instinct, highlighting the fear and distrust that often marred interactions between settlers and Native American tribes at the time. The very next day, driven by a blend of curiosity and perhaps a need to assert control over the land, Billings returned to the same area. This time, he was not just accompanied by his initial companions, but also by his wife, Lucinda Catherine Billings, née Stroop, and other spouses. Their encounter with the sinkhole was serendipitous and transformative. On this peaceful day, devoid of any skirmish, they came across the vast opening of the sinkhole, a stark contrast to the violent day prior. Lucinda Billings was the one to name it the Devil's Sinkhole, inspired perhaps by its daunting appearance and the eerie feelings it evoked. The name captured the essence of their encounter, a mysterious and formidable pit that seemed like a gateway to another, darker world. This moment of discovery and naming was pivotal, transforming the sinkhole from a mere geographic feature into a site shrouded in myth and allure. Over the years, the sinkhole's reputation only grew, fueled by its formidable appearance and the spine-tingling tales of eerie occurrences and phantom creatures reported to lurk in its depths. These legends were further emboldened by individuals like H.S. Barber, who in 1889 etched his name into the cave's walls. This act of graffiti, a common practice at the time, was indicative of a broader cultural disregard for the sanctity of natural sites, reflecting a period when notoriety could override respect for nature. The sinkhole's designation as a National Natural Landmark in 1968 marked a significant shift in its perception. This recognition by the National Park Service celebrated its natural importance, and was a call to preserve its untouched allure for posterity, highlighting the evolving environmental consciousness that sought to protect such unique natural formations, not just for their ecological value, but also for their cultural and historical significance. The story of the sinkhole is a narrative filled with contrasts, from fearful retreats to awe-filled discoveries, from acts of vandalism to honors of national significance. Each chapter in its history reflects a changing relationship with the natural world, mirroring broader shifts in societal attitudes, from conquest and fear to curiosity and reverence. This transformation was crystallized when the state of Texas assumed ownership in 1985, a move that paved the way for the sinkhole's eventual opening to the public in 1992. These steps were not just administrative, but were part of a larger effort to demystify the site and make its wonders accessible to a wider audience, allowing people to explore its depths and learn from its history firsthand. Today, the Devil's Sinkhole is more than just a natural curiosity. It is a vibrant ecological habitat, particularly for the Mexican free-tailed bats that swarm its skies in mesmerizing clouds each evening. This spectacle not only draws tourists and nature enthusiasts, but also plays a critical role in the local ecosystem by controlling insect populations, illustrating the sinkhole's continued ecological importance. See the transformation from sacred land to a commercial venture, driven by profit over preservation. Ancient sacred site, turned into a ridiculous playground. Originally a sacred site for Native Americans who mined its high-quality chert for tool-making, the Devil's Sinkhole marks one of Texas's largest bedrock resources. This prized stone drew prehistoric communities to its depths, relying on it for survival. Yet, the sanctity of this site would not last indefinitely. The sinkhole witnessed a drastic cultural shift as years turned into decades and decades into centuries. Once held sacred by native peoples for its spiritual and natural bounty, it morphed into a mere social spot for cowboys and amateur explorers. These later visitors, perhaps oblivious or indifferent to the sinkhole's historical and cultural significance, saw it as just another curious place to check out. Their inscriptions on the soft limestone walls, a crude form of graffiti, permanently marred its facade, a blatant sign of disrespect that mirrored a larger societal change. This shift from reverence to recreational use highlighted a growing disconnect from the past, with new generations viewing the site not as a sacred space, but as a novelty. The transformation of the sinkhole didn't just involve minor damages. By the early 20th century, local businessmen had begun to heavily commercialize it. They extracted bat droppings, rich in nutrients, to make ammonia for fertilizers. This marked a deeper shift into using the natural site for industry, starting from mere vandalism to large-scale removal of resources. The mining was aggressive, taking out huge amounts of these droppings that had built up over centuries. This activity harmed the cave's ecosystem and damaged its historical and archaeological importance. Although the mined material was valuable for farming, it cost the sinkhole its natural and historical qualities. This heavy use of the sinkhole went on for years, changing the landscape and leaving deep marks of human activity. It wasn't until the later part of the 20th century that actions to repair this damage began, with a focus on conservation and protecting the sinkhole to maintain its environmental and historical worth. While these efforts were underway, the sinkhole's archaeological importance was still mostly unexplored. Research concentrated on nearby areas, finding 21 archaeological sites that showed a long history of human activity from ancient times, suggesting continuous rather than sporadic use. These sites were used for collecting stone materials, processing plants, making tools, and living over long periods. The items found, such as tools and remains from cooking fires, show that these people were closely connected to their surroundings. They used local stones to make tools and prepared local plants for food, evidenced by the charred remains at these sites. The widespread use of local stone for tools across these sites not only shows a deep knowledge of using resources, but also suggests that these items were part of trade and social interactions among ancient people. Furthermore, the strategic use of the sinkhole and its surrounding areas for everyday and special purposes highlights its importance in the cultural and natural history of the region. While the sinkhole itself wasn't a residential site, evidence suggests it and similar geological features might have been considered sacred, used by Native Americans for burials or as portals to the spiritual world, adding layers of cultural depth to its natural wonder. Discover the unique natural arrangement that allows bats and swallows to share the Devil's Sinkhole. Bats take over the Devil's Sinkhole. Who determined the Devil's Sinkhole was the perfect residence? Bats. Not a few, but millions, making it one of Texas's largest bat colonies. Every evening, these bats erupt from the sinkhole in a massive, swirling cloud darkening the sky, on a mission to consume 30 tons of insects every night. This nightly event is especially spectacular from late spring to early fall, when the bat population reaches its peak at about 3 million Mexican free-tailed bats. The U.S. National Park Service recognized the unique biological and geological significance of the Devil's Sinkhole in 1972, designating it a National Natural Landmark. This recognition was meant to acknowledge its stunning natural beauty and the nightly ecological dance performed by the bats. However, this designation offers more in the way of recognition than protection, providing a title that highlights its importance but does little to shield it from the constant threat of human encroachment that many such natural wonders face. Although the landmark status lends some prestige and aids in drawing attention for conservation efforts, it isn't enough to ensure the long-term preservation of the site's ecological and geological traits. The designation is intended to foster stewardship and encourage public support for the preservation of these unique landscapes. However, it often doesn't prevent the gradual but harmful human activities that can degrade these irreplaceable resources. Threats such as visitor pressure, nearby development, pollution, and unauthorized activities like graffiti are just a few of the human impacts that the Devil's Sinkhole contends with. Despite its status, the sinkhole and the surrounding natural area are vulnerable to these threats, which can compromise the integrity of its ecosystems and the very qualities that earned it recognition. This discrepancy between recognition and real protection emphasizes a wider challenge in environmental conservation, balancing human interests with the need to preserve natural habitats. While the landmark designation raises awareness, it doesn't enforce strict legal protections or management strategies robust enough to effectively protect the sinkhole from potential harm. Additionally, the area around the sinkhole is home to a diverse group of species that rely on its undisturbed nature to survive. Rare ferns clinging to its walls and unique aquatic life in its surrounding lakes demonstrate the biological diversity of the Devil's Sinkhole. Ideally, the landmark status would aid in preserving these habitats, but actual protections are limited, focusing more on preventing major disturbances than on the equally damaging effects of gradual human encroachment. The current management strategies primarily aim to mitigate direct impacts, such as regulating visitor access and preventing vandalism. However, they often neglect the broader ecological impacts, such as water pollution from nearby sources or the introduction of invasive species, which can have devastating effects on the native ecosystems. For example, the periodic influx of tourists attracted by the spectacle of the bat flights poses a risk through the trampling of delicate vegetation and potential disturbance to the bats themselves. While these activities are not intentionally harmful, they can lead to habitat degradation and have a cumulative negative impact on the site's ecological health. Moreover, the protective framework provided by the National Natural Landmark status does not cover the wider landscape that supports the sinkhole's ecosystem. This includes the water sources and the broader catchment area, which are crucial for maintaining the ecological balance of the site, but remain unprotected from agricultural runoff, industrial pollution, and uncontrolled development. The Devil's Sinkhole showcases a remarkable example of natural time-sharing that optimizes the ecological use of space through its cyclical bat and bird residency. At night, it becomes a stage for millions of Mexican free-tailed bats that surge out to feed on the night's bounty of insects. As these bats empty the sinkhole at dusk in a dramatic spiraling exodus, they leave an open cave that doesn't stay vacant for long. With the break of day, the sinkhole transforms. Thousands of cave swallows, having spent their day navigating the vast Texas skies, return to the sinkhole for rest. This swap in residency between the nocturnal bats and diurnal birds isn't just a curious natural phenomenon, but a critical ecological arrangement that ensures the sinkhole is utilized continuously, providing sanctuary around the clock. During daylight hours, while the cave swallows rest and socializes in the sinkhole's cool depths, the space fills with the sounds of their activities. The swallows use the sinkhole as a safe haven from predators and the harsh Texan environment. Their presence during the day complements the nocturnal activities of the bats, creating a 24-hour cycle of vibrant life that sees the cave rarely empty. This ecological arrangement is particularly advantageous. The swallows benefit from the protective shelter of the sinkhole, safeguarding them from predators and the elements while they rest. Meanwhile, the bats, which consume vast amounts of insects each night, help control pest populations, benefiting agricultural interests and natural ecological balances in the area. Furthermore, this unique rotational use of the sinkhole between two distinct animal groups illustrates a perfect example of niche partitioning, where different species use the same resource, the sinkhole, in different ways that do not interfere with each other. This minimizes competition for space and exemplifies how diverse animal species can coexist harmoniously within the same habitat. However, the seamless shift between these diurnal and nocturnal tenants isn't without its challenges. The high traffic of birds and bats can lead to increased droppings, which, while a minor nuisance in terms of cleanliness, can significantly enrich the local soil with nutrients, thus influencing the local flora. Additionally, the presence of these animals in large numbers can attract predators, adding another layer of dynamic interaction in the local ecosystem. But the aerial ballet of bats and birds isn't the only draw here. The surrounding freshwater lakes are biological hotspots in their own right, hosting rare aquatic critters like amphipods and isopods, tiny shrimp and pillbug lookalikes that most people would overlook unless pointed out. Dangling precariously from the sinkhole's rugged walls is a rare type of Mexican fern, stubborn in its cling to life in such stark conditions. The area is a twitcher's paradise too, with various bird species flitting about and regional wildlife that underscore its designation as a state natural area sprawling across 1,860 acres dedicated to conserving local ecosystems. Do you think human visits harm such natural wonders? Share your thoughts below. If you found this dive into the Devil's Sinkhole intriguing, like and subscribe for more.